This episode is to spotlight one of my favorite podcasts, Once Upon a Nightmare. The show is hosted by my friend Lorraine Purdon in the UK. She discusses horror films and more recently, movies based on true crime. I've been a guest on her show a few times now, once to cover The Ring, Japanese versus American version, 1408, a three-way discussion with Stuart Blues of British Murders, and just last week I was on to chat about Karla. Not long ago, I covered the Ken and Barbie Killers, Paul Bernardo and Karla Homolka. Well, this 2006 film takes her story to the big screen. Enjoy.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Once Upon a Nightmare. I am your host, Lorraine, and I am joined from Bobbie from Killer Stories. Got it right
There
this
you
time.
go. You got it right. I was wondering.
I've been saying that over and over in my head. Well, Killer Stories. Because what did I call you? Serial killers last time.
Serial killers. Yeah, I don't remember what all you've come up with. And every time she texts my name, it says Boobie still. I think your phone just changes it to Boobie now.
Yeah, this is my friend Boobie.
Autocorrect, Boobie.
Yeah, exactly. Bobbie has been on the show before. We did do The Ring versus The Ring, American and Japanese. And you also came on and we did 1408 with Start from British Murders. I don't know why I said it like that.
I always say Stu because it makes me want to say it like the Minions. Stuart. Do you know that movie? The little yellow people? Yeah.
Now, whenever
one of
I
them's
see
named
them,
Stuart, and that's how they say it.
Oh, so I just think of him anytime I see. So he's a minion. Okay, got it.
He's a minion. Stuart, the minion.
Cool. But for this episode, we're going dark. We're going on a film that's based on real events, and that is the 2006 film Karla. Now, Bobbie has done an episode on this on her podcast, a really in-depth one. So for this episode, she's going to have a mountain of knowledge on the killer. She's like
a mountain.
See how I threw you under the bus there. So if anything's wrong, yes. We can blame you.
Oh, and they will. They will blame me.
Oh, I know. YouTube.
YouTube's the worst.
And is it worse than TikTok? I don't think it's worse than TikTok.
Yes, but I don't post on TikTok as much anymore. Maybe that's why. But yeah, I get called out all the time for minute details. It's so annoying.
I know. I don't get why people do that. I'm like, seriously, come on, get a life. Just move on. Just move on with your day. Cool. So just a little, I don't usually do warnings, but I feel like for this film, just to let you know, there is a lot of talk about rape, murder, and torture, but for very young girls. Not that it's okay for anyone, but yeah, just to let people know if they don't want to listen to it, then that's completely fine. Karla was directed by Joel Bender and written by Michael D. Sellers, Manette Rosen, and again, Joel Bender. It is a real life story of a young couple, Paul Bernardo, aka the Scarborough Rapist, and the Schoolgirl Killer, played by Misha Collins, and Karla Homolka, aka the Witch of Ontario, played by Laura Pepron. Between 1990 and 1992, the couple would rape and murder and torture many women, and together they would be known as the Ken and Barbie Killers. Makes them sound so sweet, doesn't it? Ken and Barbie.
So cute. That's just, they're pretty.
They really weren't, though.
I didn't think so either. I don't think Paul Bernardo's pretty at all.
No, because like
the real one or the guy that played him in the film.
No, I mean Laura Pepron's very pretty, but I didn't get that because because obviously Ken and we all know what the reference of Ken and Barbie they're like, but they weren't. I think it's just because they were young, blonde, I suppose maybe are they 90s good looking?
I know that's what it's kind of hard to have that mindset. Put yourself in the early 90s, right? Isn't that what it was? Early 90s.
Hey, hang on. I can put myself in the early 90s.
I mean, I was there too. I was just very little.
You were about 5, weren't you?
Yes.
Yeah, no,
but anyways,
I wouldn't have found him attractive in the early 90s. But then obviously you're not going to find him attractive because he's in this film, I found him extremely difficult to watch at all times. He was disgusting.
I hated the Paul in this film. I mean, I hated the guy playing it and the character we'll get more into it, but I feel like it was very one-sided as Paul being the bad guy in this movie, right?
Mm,
I don't know.
so did you, I don't know what word to use, but for use of a better term, did you like the film? Did you,
Are we supposed to like this film? I don't know. I mean, that was my question. I mean, no, I didn't
were you
really like it. I
bored?
didn't think it
Is probably a
I
better way of
wasn't
putting it.
bored, but I didn't
Yeah.
think it was done well. I thought
Yeah.
the acting was poor, and even
Hmm.
like the fight scenes, I was like, you can tell that it's really fake.
Mm,
When he was like beating her, kicking her, or
mm.
whatever, I could see that it wasn't actually connecting. And I don't know, they could have maybe put a little more effort into that. But again, just the backstory, I don't know that we are supposed to like this movie. I think it's
Yeah, I
just kind of documentary style
yeah,
movie,
yeah. It's
right?
yeah. That's actually probably a
I
good way of
don't
putting it because I found it very uncomfortable to watch, and
know.
I found it quite boring to watch. And I agree with you 100%. If you didn't know the backstory of these characters, then you would definitely not think what happened actually happened.
We would be like, oh, poor
Poor,
Karla.
poor Carla.
Right.
So, for those who don't know, why don't you, if you can, out of memory, give us a little backstory of the killers? Under the bus she goes.
Well, right. So I'll just kind of how they met. The very
Mm,
first thing that seemed not that it's a huge detail, but she was at a convention because she
mm,
was a vet working as a vet tech. And so her and her coworkers were in visiting that city for a
mm,
convention, and they were in their like hotel restaurant. But my memory serves me as they were down there in their pajamas for a late night snack.
yeah.
And they were kind of all done up looking cute in the movie. Cause I remember Paul like picking on her for being in
Mm,
her pajamas.
mm.
And then, they hit it off immediately and go upstairs and apparently have sex in front of their friends, which I didn't know that part. That was really weird, right?
That was, yeah, I think that kind of sets you off actually from straight away knowing how messed up this would be because she
Yeah.
literally just met him,
Hmm.
but to do nothing, I don't have anything against one night stands, but like to do it in front of your friend and his friend.
Yeah. Right. Like my friend's sitting there, your friend's sitting there, and they're both disgusted. Like, why not leave the room at the
That's what I was
very
saying. Go to
least
the
if
bathroom. Go into the bathroom because most of these places are en suite. Yeah.
something.
Mm,
I mean, I wonder how much of this film like is going from Carla's word. I feel
mm.
like that's probably what happened, the way that it seems like it is more on her side with everything.
Oh yeah,
Even
definitely.
like who killed who and that kind of thing. I mean, they gave his side as well in court at the end, but it seems definitely, oh, poor Karla. And I don't know that that's completely true.
Well, you do
Um,
get a lot of that, I think, with, people who fall in love and then, the murders happen and then
mhm,
reality sets in when you get to court, as in, actually, I could go to jail for
mhm,
this. I'm not willing, and that seems to be the case with a lot of cases. Like they soon, actually, no, I'm not willing to spend the rest of my life in jail. And this whole film is completely from her perspective. And from that
mhm,
point of view, she is definitely the innocent victim in all this. She
mhm.
really is. The
I
way,
did. I liked how they were interviewing her and
yeah,
then it was like flashbacks. I mean, that
yeah,
was
I
kind of
thought that
cool.
was really good.
But
Yeah.
what I didn't like is I felt like they could have touched a little more on the Scarborough rapist thing. Like if you
Mm,
knew nothing about this case and just watched this movie, I feel like it would be a little confusing.
yeah.
Because you're watching it and they start dating and then all of a sudden there's a newspaper with a picture on the front and they're like, oh look, it's Paul. And it was just kind of weird. I felt like it was just thrown in there. And to those who don't know, Paul Bernardo is the Scarborough rapist, and he had raped many young girls before he
Mm.
even met Karla. And I don't know how long it took her to figure that out, but she didn't really care once she did find out that he was a rapist. And then they continued the rape together.
Yeah, that was a bit disturbing. Like, obviously, if you
Hmm.
find out that about your partner, you know,
Hmm.
turn them in and get the hell out of there. But
Right.
I
And
was
that's what it in the movie, sorry to interrupt. In the movie,
sorry.
they they're having sex, she puts on the handcuffs and he says, "What if I was a rapist?" And she said that would be cool, which did I mean, I don't know that that's the context that it happened, but I remember in my notes that she said that she thought it was cool that he was a rapist. So if this is all going by her word, then I guess maybe that's how it went down and it was taken possibly out of context, because I can see how that would be maybe be dirty talk, like, "Oh, I'm tied up. You're raping me. If you're into that thing, whatever." You know what I mean? But yeah,
Yeah.
then
Yeah,
obviously,
consensual. I mean, personally, I mean, not to judge. If any of my mates told me they were, right, role play fine, but I think if a guy turned around and said to me that, I'd be like, no, 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 no.
what if I were a rapist?
Oh,
Then
so
you can,
cool. Yeah.
yeah, that
No.
would be cool.
Yeah.
No,
No,
but
that was really disturbing. But she was so obsessed with him because, like, even when we start seeing her with her sister, because how much
mhm.
younger was she? What age was she? Do you
I
remember?
think Tammy was 15.
Yeah. Oh God, he's had a thing about that age group, wasn't it? Because a few of them were
Mhm.
that age. But
Yes, yes.
so like, but it was a strange thing because obviously there's a bit in it where he sat on a couch and Tammy goes up and sits on his lap like you
Mhm.
would if you were a girlfriend or a partner, and you could see that she was extremely jealous, but she was literally willing to go along with
Mhm.
anything to keep him
She goes
happy.
along with a lot.
Yeah.
And I do feel for her in some senses like that. I don't know why you would stay with that. Like you said, she's
Mm.
obsessed for
Yeah.
sure. But, and I do, that did happen. Like, I guess Tammy did have a flirtatious relationship with him.
Mm.
And I think she liked that because he was her big sister's boyfriend and it felt nice to have some attention and that kind of thing. I do remember that being real. And they did go shopping for 8 hours and come home, and Karla was pissed.
Mm.
So I know that that all did happen, but then what happens after that, the whole Christmas present thing, I
Mm.
don't understand how on earth you could go forward with that being your little baby sister.
Because in
Um,
the real life scenario, they actually do stuff to her, don't they? Because
They
in this,
do.
it makes
Yeah,
it look like they
they made
don't.
it I know. They
Yeah.
made it seem like, "Oh, I don't want to. I don't want to." And he's telling her to do things to Tammy and she like barely touches her and then oh,
Yeah.
Tammy's choking. No. From what
Yeah.
I remember, she
It's a
was
lot
full
more.
on sexually assaulting her and it's on video. Like both Paul and Karla assaulting
Yeah.
Karla's little sister Tammy.
Yeah, and I think that
And
was because I remember reading about that, and I thought when I saw that, I think that was the first moment where I thought, actually, no, they're really playing
mhm,
her down on
for
this, like
sure.
the innocent one. And that I think that's the problem. I think when you make films like this, it's almost disrespectful to make one of the characters look like that. Because have you ever seen the film The Iceman about Richard Kuklinski, the hitman?
No, I have not.
Well, if you watch that film, it makes him look like a really nice guy, but he was this brutal hitman, and I just
Mhm,
find it confusing when, look, you've got the material, and I'm not saying we needed to witness it because, I don't think
right.
you need to see it. You know what's going to happen. But in this, they
Mhm,
just played it down too much the whole way through. You got little snippets
yes.
every now and again, but in general, the whole way through, if you did not know this story, you would think that she was a battered wife, domestic violence, and she just didn't know what else to do but what she was doing.
And there was that. She was a battered wife, and I get that, but she had many chances before
Mm.
that started happening
Yes.
to leave.
Mm.
And to those who don't know what happened, so Karla working as the vet tech, she stole anesthetic that would knock her out. First,
Mm.
they basically drugged her. They got her drunk with strawberry daiquiris and whatever else they were drinking that night. They put some sedatives in her drink, plus held a towel of basically it's kind of like ether to her face to keep her sedated while they sexually assaulted her. And then she started vomiting, choked on her own vomit, and
Mm.
died.
Died, yeah.
So they both, I mean, I think she does take some responsibility for at least that murder.
Mm.
Um, but they both killed Tammy Homolka, and there were more to follow after that. So it's not a mistake. I mean, to me, it's like this meant to happen. I mean, they meant to do what they did. The consequences, maybe they didn't mean for her to die, but I mean, what did you think you were doing here? That's crazy.
Exactly. And then when they went on, like, I think when she died, he probably, well, they both liked it. Like, it's not like they went, oh God, we better be careful next time because we don't, we can do all the other stuff, but just make sure we don't kill them, basically. But they didn't.
Right.
They went on and did that. But I know there's no nice way to die, but they really drag it out, don't they? Like what they do with these, like that first girl they get. What was her name?
Well, and that's the thing. So they changed her name in the movie. And there are a few things they changed, and I wondered. Right. So Leslie Mahaffey is the real victim. And I think, let me see, they called her Tina McCartney. Or Tina McCarthy. I don't know, one of those in the movie. But also, so after Tammy's death, they actually got kicked. They were living with Karla's parents. And they got kicked out. So in the movie, they kind of make it seem like, oh, he was smuggling cigarettes and got all this money. And then we moved into this house, all happy. Like, no, like you got kicked out. But I wonder if her parents just were like, we want no part of this. Because do you notice later when she gets the black eyes, when he beats her really bad, she calls family friends, and none of that happened. What happened, I mean, it does later. Her coworker calls her mom. And that's how they get her out of the house. But the mom and dad, Karla's parents, are not in this movie at all. And I'm assuming they didn't allow their identity to be used. I don't know.
Yeah, definitely.
It seems strange.
It's just two friends, isn't it?
Yeah, they changed that up a bit. And then, like I said, they changed not only with Leslie Mahaffey, her name, but and to her parents, it's got to be so hard. What really happened? She was late getting home. She was past curfew, and her mom locked her out. And because of that, she started walking away, and that's when Paul picked her up. So
when her mom locked her out, did she just refuse to open the door, or was she asleep?
She refused to open the door, as far as I know.
Who the does that?
I know. So she went to a payphone, I believe, and called a friend, and the friend couldn't help her out either. So she started walking back towards home to be like, hey mom, there's nowhere else I can go. Let me in. And that's when Paul picked her up. And then in the movie, it was kind of like, I think she's like, oh, I forgot my keys. I'm locked out, or something like that. So they kind of changed it around a little bit, but I can see how, as the victim's parents, you wouldn't want that being plastered. Sorry to plaster it on the podcast, but that's what happened.
Yeah, no, I suppose when you think about it, I would never lock my kid out, but like, you don't know how much maybe this kid was.
I know. I think she was a little bit of a troublemaker.
Yeah. So maybe teaching her a lesson, but still, but to be honest with you, they've been punished enough just by what happened. Like, do you know what I mean?
So, yes. The parents, I know, I can't imagine what they're living with after that happened.
Well, you'd never forgive yourself.
I know.
And
so there's more that's different about this. And this was something that stuck out to me as being really weird. So she was blindfolded the whole time, because I think they supposedly had planned to release her. They were going to just mess with her. Yeah. So it slipped, and she saw them in real life. In the movie, Karla takes it off and says, okay, keep your eyes closed. And she keeps it closed. And then she's like, she flips her eyes open like crazy wide, weird. And then Paul's like, what the fuck? You're supposed to keep your eyes closed. Like, it was this big dramatic scene. And I'm like, how could you just tell someone to keep their eyes closed and expect them to do that while they're being raped and tortured? Seriously. And then they had to kill her because she saw them or whatever. But to be honest, she saw Paul's face when he picked her up.
Yeah.
So what difference does it make? I don't know.
It was just an excuse.
They were probably going to kill her all around. Yeah, they were going to kill her.
Yeah, it was just an excuse. But when they went and got Kristen French's character.
So she's after Tammy, there was Leslie Mahaffey, and then from a Christian school. So Kristen French, I believe, in the movie. Let's see, I did make a note of that.
But
what
I
her
think the way
Oh, Caitlin Ross. They
Caitlin,
called her
yeah,
Caitlin Ross.
but she was taken, and this is apparently isn't in real life as well, in a very public way.
Yes, she was walking home from school and
Yeah,
they picked her up in a church parking lot. They pulled
yeah,
over and asked for directions.
yeah.
And she was kind enough to give them directions. And Paul came up behind her with a
And
knife. So that
yeah,
part all was pretty true.
crazy.
And she did leave a shoe behind. So that
Yeah.
all happened. That was part of how they were kind of tracking her down. But the car that Paul was driving was incorrectly reported. And so that led them
Yeah.
away from him looking for no one, led them off the trail, I should say.
Because I find her scene really difficult to watch, especially because again, she's only 15, and she was, I mean, we didn't see anything as such, but she was topless for a lot of the time.
Mhm.
But she kind of tried to give as good as she got. Like, she answered him back, called him a bastard, and he didn't like that because apparently that's what his mum used to call him in real life. And I think because they took even longer with her, I felt. And then there's one bit, oh God, it's when you know that he's raping her,
Mhm.
and he's making her repeat words,
I know.
and
It's
that
awful.
was just, I was like, I want to turn this off.
I know.
You know,
Yeah. And he likes to be told that he's like a king and the best looking man and all this
all the
bullshit.
girls
Like,
at her school think he's gorgeous or something.
right. Narcissistic
Oh,
prick.
Jesus. But do
And
you
that's
go on?
probably what happened.
Oh, I agree.
I'm
I
sure.
agree. No, I unfortunately, I think it's true. I think a lot of the stuff that happens is probably a lot worse in real life. But do you think though, if she hadn't met him, that she would have taken this path?
I don't think so. Honestly, I
Mm,
think he probably had a lot of the influence. I don't know though. I don't know her relationship with Tammy prior to Paul because I feel
yeah.
like everything that she had butted heads with Tammy was because of Paul. So,
Mm.
and the jealousy. So I don't know. Her life could have been completely different. It's really hard to answer that question, but she's definitely a horrible person as well. Like I said, the movie played her out to be something different than I think she was, but I think she was definitely influenced by Paul Bernardo for
Well, I was
sure.
watching just a little documentary on her today, and she was going through the house in a schoolgirl's outfit with the police, pointing stuff out. And then she was like, "Do you know where my furniture is? Did they damage my furniture? I had some samples of perfume." She was asking them this, and there was one bit where she was like on her knees, like kind of looking up like this,
Oh,
doing something, but dressed in a schoolgirl outfit. And I was like,
yeah.
no, that's
Oh
evil. And
no.
you don't, in the middle of a house where a murder took place, go, "Do you know where my furniture is? Did they
Yeah.
damage
And
it?"
all promiscuous like.
Oh,
But and Paul like making the girls say certain things, and he
mm,
did that to Karla after
mm.
Tammy died. He made her pretend to be Tammy because he still wanted the young, pure virgin. And
Yeah, he
I
wanted
just,
kids.
again,
He was a
I
pedophile.
don't know for sure. I don't know how she could stay with him through all of that,
Yeah, because he wanted
especially
virgins as
once he
well, didn't he?
started beating her. Yeah.
Yeah, he was
Yeah.
vicious, wasn't he?
Yeah, and that I don't know. I mean, I know that she was beaten very badly.
Mm.
I believe it was
With
in the
a,
back of the head with a flashlight. So they didn't
yeah.
show that in the film, but that's what caused the severe black eyes that she had. Um, but I don't know that it was as constant or as severe as the movie showed. I don't know those details, but again, this is probably Carla's story. So it might
Oh,
be a little
100%.
embellished.
Yeah, no, yeah. No, I think I don't think for one minute that she wasn't beaten by him. But
Hmm.
yeah, I think it's been made to sound a lot worse than it was to, get her less time basically in jail. Who was the next one they went with?
Well, I think
Name?
Kristen French was the last
Oh, she
one
was the
that
last one.
died.
Oh yeah, because it was the three.
But I want to go back to Leslie Mahaffey because in the movie,
Yeah.
sorry, I shouldn't have got all excited and laughed. It's not funny, but this part made me laugh. So they dismembered her and put her in cement blocks. And then Paul's like, look at the block, that like
Mm.
shows all the cement blocks and there's a foot sticking out. Did you see that? Like, I don't know if
What
that was
the
just
actual
for
fuck?
cinematic effect for us to be like, oh, there's bodies in that cement, but there's no way you would throw a cement block in the lake with a foot sticking out. Like, what is the point?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. No, that
He's like, I painted that one black because her hair was sticking out.
yeah.
I don't know, but they did. I think they discovered her body because of fishermen. The one was too heavy for them to get it into the water, and so
Mm.
it was on the shore.
Yeah.
And some fishermen called it in as suspicious, and they discovered what was inside. So then they found the rest of them in the lake and found all of Leslie Mahaffey. And I think with Kristen French, they just dumped her body somewhere.
Yeah, because well, in the film, I don't know if this is what happened, but you see her just kind of dumped in the woods or something, and she's just like
Yeah.
on her stomach and stuff like that. But when she was
Mhm.
with Kirsten French's character, what did you say her name was? Caitlin,
I think Caitlin.
Caitlin.
Ross,
It's
Caitlin
like she
Ross.
was trying to like, because at one point, I think it was Caitlin's character. She looks at her and she's like almost like don't do anything, like this. And
Mhm.
she was like trying to be nice to her. So like there was times that's what I mean with this film. Like if you didn't know the story, there was times where you think, is she going to let her go? Do you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Because
Right.
it's
No,
really confusing watching her.
right. So she was nice to her at some points, but
Mm.
then she grabbed that mallet and sat
Yeah,
down and she's
yeah,
like, no, you don't understand. Like, you
yeah,
try to leave, I'm going to beat you with this mallet,
yeah.
which that is the predicament. Did she beat her with the mallet? Did she not
Mm.
beat her with the mallet? Paul
Yeah,
says
she did.
Karla
Yeah.
killed her by hitting her with the mallet, and I guess she was like tied to a dresser with
Mm.
a noose around her neck, and
Mm.
as she tried to escape it strangled herself, and plus being beat with a mallet is how she died. And Karla says that Paul strangled her, which is kind of how they showed it in the movie, but that was also
Mm.
just her recollection flashback. So I don't know, I think yes, I Paul influenced Karla into being the monster that she is. But having said that, no one died until Karla was introduced to the
Yeah,
situation. Because prior to that, Paul was just raping women. Not that that's okay, but no one was
yeah,
dying.
yeah.
Now, all of a sudden, you met this woman, Karla, introduce her into this with you, and girls are being murdered.
Because I
So,
personally think in the real life that when he brought them back, because obviously the girls he raped, she didn't see that. The Scarborough rapist one, she didn't see him
mhm.
do that. So there was nothing to actually say. And there was one bit where he comes home from a week away and he's like, oh, I was shagging, this girl. He
Oh,
talks
I
about that.
know.
And she's, yeah, it was just so, can you imagine your husband coming, oh my God, I just had the best shag. You feel like, what? And even her friends, like his friends, because, oh yeah, they're having a party and he goes off and
Mhm.
shags one of the girls. And they're like, what are you
Yes.
doing, mate? And he like loses his shit because he doesn't think can do anything
He's like,
wrong.
Karla doesn't give a shit. You don't know anything, blah, blah, blah. Like,
Yeah, that's why
I
she
don't
said
know
put
how
the gun to
accurate
bed.
that is either.
It wouldn't
I
surprise
don't
me
know
if he was
those
doing it.
details.
Well, I
Yeah.
personally think that the reason he killed them when she came along is he wanted to kill them and had someone that was on board with it. But I think the jealousy was probably too much, that she
Mhm.
wasn't that bothered that they were killed, but she was happy to go along with it because of jealousy. Because she was I mean, the jealousy was
It made
insane.
him happy. So
Mm.
she
Well,
was
exactly.
okay with
Yeah.
playing. Ugh. It's the whole thing's sickening, and it is sickening to watch. It was very hard to watch, like I said, and the acting was bad. But at the same time, it's like I didn't mind watching it as a movie because I like true crime, but at the same time, it's awful.
I
Does that
think
make
for me,
sense?
I I watch a lot of true crime documentaries, but in the
Mm-hmm.
true crime documentaries, they tell you what happened, and you might see somebody walking, or you might see the aftermath, someone laying down and stuff like that, but you never
Right.
see the act. There was once what a couple of times I went on and I saw that they were showing a bit more than I wanted to see. Um, but I find these things really difficult to watch because I don't want, for me, they showed too much. I'll take Leatherface hacking off someone with a chainsaw any day over that type of thing because I mean, I know it could happen, somebody could use a chainsaw, but it's a lot more, it's not real. Like when you look at all the horror films with the horror icons, you don't feel it
Yeah.
like, oh God, this is going to happen to me. Like, do you know what I mean? Whereas with this, A, it did happen, and B, it could happen again. C, it could be happening now that we don't know about. Like, do you know what I mean? It probably is. And I just
Yeah, and
can't.
they showed more of the sexual assault
Yeah.
than actually. Whenever he was strangling her,
Yeah.
they had the camera up on him and not down on her.
Yeah.
So they didn't show that. They didn't show the dismemberment, which I don't want them to. I'm just saying it's like they're okay with showing rape, but not
Yeah.
strangulation,
Exactly. I
which
found that because
really
like I
weird.
was watching, I was going to do a film which I'll end up doing on my own with another person, the Snowtown Murders, and they did the same thing. So these guys killed a lot of people. They put them in barrels. They tortured them, all that kind of stuff. And I haven't finished it, but what I did watch, they showed the sexual abuse. They showed a young boy being raped. They showed kids having photographs taken and stuff like that. But the murders, they didn't show. And I was like, you know, the murders I could watch easier as long as it's not too much torture. Then
Right.
you know what I mean? I know that
Hmm.
sounds really weird. You could watch murder, but unless it's really brutal and they go overboard. Whereas in here, the murders weren't. Sounds like it's really bad explaining it, but they weren't the overboard bit. They weren't the torture bit. The rapes were just too,
Hmm.
especially that
Right.
Caitlin girl. When
Hmm.
he was,
Yeah,
I
the
was like,
last one.
I don't want to do this. And then the next day, watching the other film, The Snow, I was like, oh my god, I need to watch Mary
Could you
Poppins or something.
imagine? But could you imagine being on the jury for this case and seeing the real video being played in front of you? Not just the two, but Tammy, her doing that to her baby sister. I mean, they
I wouldn't
played
do it.
that for the
I wouldn't.
jury.
I
They
wouldn't do
had the
it.
video facing the jury, and the rest of the courtroom got to hear audio. And you can, as a civilian, go sit in the courtroom if you are
Have you
first in line.
have you watched it? Have you watched the audio? Is it like
No,
available
I
online?
no, I don't want to know if it's available
Yeah.
online, but
No,
I
I'm not
don't
going looking
believe
for
that
it.
it is.
No, it
No, I don't
shouldn't
believe
be.
that it is. And you know what? That this movie, again, definitely on Karla's side, because the whole thing, her being, okay, I'm going to do this plea deal. I'm going
Hmm.
to tell you everything I know so that I can get a lesser sentence, right?
Yeah.
Um, then these tapes come out, and the Crown should have revoked that plea deal after the tapes come out and they see her being a willing participant in the sexual assault. In my opinion, who cares that a deal's done? This evidence came to light. That should be revoked, in my
Can they do
opinion.
that though? Is that a
I
thing?
don't know. I don't know, but I
I
feel
don't
like it
think
should.
you.
I mean, obviously you can't, or maybe that's what would have happened. But the thing is, this movie did not even mention that. They didn't mention the tapes coming to light at all. Paul hid them until they went to court, and his lawyer kept it quiet until they went to court, and then just kind of bombarded them. But even then,
Because
she's
he
still
didn't
only
want Paul to look like the complete bad guy. He wanted
right.
to show that she was see, in that situation, I think maybe they need to change the law a bit. So if anyone's listening, they need to say, look, you can have your deal or your immunity, whatever it is they do at the time to whoever, but if we find out that you were more involved than you bloody said you were,
Yeah.
that's it,
Or
you're
just
getting it.
that you're
Yeah.
lying.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, it should be under oath. And if you put your hand on the Bible and you lie and it comes to light that you lied, then it shouldn't count, in my
So was
opinion.
her first time of knowing that these tapes were actually about, was she sat in court and they went, well, we've got a film for you?
So Paul's original lawyer held on to them
Yeah.
for a very long time. And I
Yeah.
think the guilt was starting to build. I don't know if that's exactly why, but he
Yeah.
gave up as Paul's lawyer and handed them over to a new lawyer.
Hmm.
Once that happened, the new lawyer was like, oh my God. And he brought it forth to like the
Okay.
judge and everything. So it was put in as evidence, because before I think they were planning on ambushing her in court is what the plan was.
So the jury, though, they obviously didn't know about these tapes before they were like
No.
on board. Like that's the thing, you
Oh
see.
no.
I wouldn't have been able to do it. You could imagine that the poor feckers being forced to watch kids have this done to them.
And I think that's what's so horrible is things like this. It doesn't just affect the victims or the families of the victims. Those people
Mm.
are literally have PTSD from watching that. I think the lawyer has PTSD from one. Paul told him, hey, hold on to these, don't watch them. And he didn't for like a few weeks. And then he finally watched them and was like, oh my God. What do I have here? What am I holding on to? Like, this is horrific. And the documentary on ID channel, the investigation discovery channel, that's the whole documentary is all about the tapes. Like, it's a big deal. So it's hilarious that this movie did not even touch on it at all. Like he said, oh, I have her on camera killing Tammy, but they didn't show them videotaping the Kristen French character or the Leslie Mahaffey character, and they did. That's also on videotape.
That's traumatizing.
It's awful.
It is.
Awful.
No, it is. Because I know, because apparently, didn't she at the end, when in real life, when her parents did come to get, because their parents came to get her in real life, didn't they, in the end?
Yes, they came to take her and she didn't want to go.
Didn't
She
she run
did
in
not
to
want to go
find the tapes or
willingly.
something?
She said
Yeah.
she ran back in, and I think she was in there looking for the tapes.
Looking for the
And
tapes,
that's
yeah.
what Paul had them hidden because the police scoured the apartment for like 72 days or something crazy like that and never found them.
72.
And 72 days they searched his house. They searched the house and they were put in the ceiling tile in the bathroom. Like they moved it and like hid it up in the ceiling. And he told his lawyer where they were at. So after they were done searching the house, the lawyer went and grabbed them.
Wow.
Yep.
Jesus Christ.
I know.
That's bloody terrifying. Yeah, no, I hope those tapes are out because have you I think didn't you do an episode on David Parker Ray?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, the
like I've
toolbox
heard
killer.
that.
Toy box killer. Sorry, there's
Yeah.
two.
Yeah, there is.
He's the
Yeah.
toy box killer.
Yeah, there's another one, isn't there?
It's awful.
I listened to that. I think I was listening to last podcast on the left and they put it on their episode. Or did you put it on your episode?
So it's not David Parker Ray speaking it. What I found is it's like a guy he did the same drawl and same accent and he read what he said.
Yeah.
So it was kind of just to give you an idea, but I totally stole his words and then gave him credit for that because it sounded so much creepier when he said it than when I said it. But it's awful.
Yeah, I remember listening to that and wishing I hadn't. Like,
know.
So I think like obviously, but some people they would if those videos were online, they'd go watching. I never would. Not in a million years would I go watching them. It just wouldn't happen.
Nope.
But yeah, no, I hate the two of them so much. I really do.
I know. You know what? Whenever Stu came on your first episode together and you asked him what kind of horror films he liked, and he said torture porn, that's what popped into my head. I had no idea what torture porn as far as a horror film was.
Oh, did you not? I know.
No, I'm like, torture porn? What the? What?
Yeah, no.
Sounded very creepy.
Yeah, no, I'm not into that type of stuff at all. And while this wasn't like, blood and guts and all that kind of stuff, I would watch those torture porn films over this.
Yeah.
Like your hostels and stuff, because it's just, it was too, it was too much for me.
Yeah. And the dude that played Paul, he was such a douchebag. Like over the top douchebag. And he probably was in real life. So I guess maybe that's good, but I couldn't stand watching him.
Yeah, because I'm one of these people that as soon as I see an actor, I'm on IMDb looking all about him. And
Hmm.
I had a look at him, and he actually looks really nice in his, when he's not Paul. And
Yeah.
I always think when actors play characters like this, it must be hard because sometimes they obviously themselves have to go into such detail, and they're not into. Some of them aren't into true crime. Like when Scott Glenn
Hmm.
did Silence of the Lambs, he wasn't into true crime at all and had to watch all these videos of stuff, cases, and all this kind of stuff, and he was traumatized. So can you imagine not being into true crime and they're like, right, we need you to look at this. Like, I wonder, did they make them look at the tapes?
Yeah.
I hope not. I can't
Mm.
see them having them. But
I hope not. They probably just told them what to do. But yeah,
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 watch a
you'd
few
think they'd have to,
documentaries or something.
yes, they'd
Yeah.
have to learn the case, I would think. Um, but yeah, having said that, Laura Prepon, is that how you say it?
Mm,
Prepon.
on.
I
Yeah.
like her.
Prepon.
And so it's hard because I like her and I hate Karla.
I'll be honest, yeah, because I used to watch that 70s show, and this was just
I
after
know.
that 70s show. And she was
Yeah.
like, lovely in that and very innocent and stuff like that. But I'll
Hmm.
be honest with you, in this, I found it very difficult to um kind of think of her as Karla, if you know what I mean. But as
Yeah.
well, I kept on, like I said, I kept on getting sucked into this whole, oh my God, I can't believe that's happening to her. And then I'd have to go, oh no, Lorraine, she's full of shit, this
Yeah.
type of
Oh,
thing.
wait.
So
This is Karla Homolka we're talking about. It's not
yeah,
Donna
exactly. But
Pinciati.
so this is obviously complete because obviously the film is from her perspective because Paul, like, is he still alive?
Yes.
Yeah.
So
So
he's never getting out of prison.
no,
Karla,
she is. She's already out of
she's
prison.
out. She's
Yeah.
out. She served 12 years. 12. Yes. And she is out. And I think she moved to Quebec. She has
Mm.
kids. She's married. She was volunteering at her kids' school. And when people found out who she was, they like took a shit fit. And she's like, I can't do anything normal. And it's like, well, yeah, because you're freaking Karla Homolka.
I know.
Ugh,
Oh, poor
you should
thing.
still be in prison. You like participated in killing 3 people and raping who knows how many, because they kind of touched on it in the movie, but I'm pretty sure they raped someone on their honeymoon in Hawaii. There were some references that in my research for the episode that I did about that, but not concrete evidence. So
For the
it's like
first
I
girl,
don't think he couldn't help himself.
no, no, no. But for Leslie in the first girl, it must like what I wonder what went through her head and if it happened like that when obviously she'd been taken by Paul, so she thinks she's been kidnapped by a bloke, and then a woman comes in. Like for that split second, would you be like, oh, I might be okay. There's a woman here because. You see with some serial killers when they've got a woman like Myra Hindley and Rose West, people would get into the car because they were in the car. And, people don't think of women as doing these things. So, and
Right.
like when you see her with Caitlin, it's her that she talks to, you
Right.
know?
Yeah. I think what happened with Leslie Mahaffey in real life is Karla was sleeping when he brought her home and
Mm.
he did his own thing with her for a little bit. And then she woke up and was like, whatever, I'm just going to do my own thing. I remember her saying like she took Buddy the Rottweiler for a walk. When she came home, she saw her fancy china glasses or champagne glasses being used. And she was pissed because
That
he
was the problem.
used them with her. Yes, that was the problem, that she used the champagne glasses from Paris or whatever. And so he like wined and dined her. And I think he was literally like treating it almost like a date for a while. And then the torture came into
Mm,
play. I don't know. That's kind of, unless he was had her like tied up and like forcing
mm.
her to drink champagne. Who knows? I don't know those details, but so strange. These
Yeah,
two. I don't get it.
no, no. Um, but I do find though with a lot of these true crime films based on like serial killers, basically, they're never that good. It's like there's no budget for them.
Yeah.
I find, and I think that's what I think you've got all this material. I think they did a good job when they did the Ted Bundy one with Zac Efron, but we don't need any more
Yeah.
Ted Bundy films. There's been enough.
Yeah. But I
But
did like that one.
that
It was
I don't
hard.
think,
I don't think Ted Bundy's hot, but Zac Efron's hot.
but yeah, so that was a really good film, and there was a big production behind it, big name and all that kind of stuff. But you get all these true crime films like about serial killers, and it's like you've got all this material, but it's not. They don't use it. Like they
Yeah.
should have just
This one,
made
it
Karla
wasn't
the
done.
her that she was.
Yeah.
You know, because I think it's so disrespectful to like make people feel sorry for her, because like I said, you would have felt sorry for that woman at
Yeah. And I
times.
don't think they need their permission to make a movie
I don't
about
think
them.
they'd need Carla's or Paul's, but I think
Yeah.
from a parent point of view, like if you were watching that and
Or the victims' families.
you'd be like,
and-
hang on a second, I don't think so. I don't think it happened like
Yeah.
quite like that. Like, do you know what I mean? So
Mhm.
I think you got this material out there and use it, you know? I mean, I don't,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to see them both doing what they actually did in full detail, because what we got was enough. But I think they should have just done the story like Monster. I thought that was great how they did Monster, you know,
Mhm.
the Eileen Warner story and stuff like that. But again, big budget, Charlize Theron,
Right.
Christina
Yeah.
Ricci. But yeah, these films just, I will never watch this fucking film again.
I won't watch it again either.
No.
But I mean, if someone wanted to watch it, I wouldn't tell them not to watch it. I guess it's different than watching a documentary for
Yeah.
sure. I feel like there's a lot of leeway or what's the right, like creativeness that the writer maybe added some
It's
things
like
in, or
artistic license or creative,
yeah,
creative license.
right.
Yeah.
Because I was watching
Yeah.
it and I was like, no, I don't think so. I don't think that's how it went down. Not that I am an expert, but I did do a lot of research for this show.
No, you did a lot of research for your show and just remembered it all.
Yeah, right. Yeah. No, I totally went back to my notes and kind of just was comparing, but it wasn't that long ago. I do remember
I
a
know.
lot.
No, and I listened to that episode.
And it was a two-parter.
Didn't I
That's a
recommend
lot.
that episode?
I think you may have. I think you may have.
I think I
You
did.
did, and I was like, okay, it's awful. I don't really want to do it. And then somebody else
Yeah, two
wrote
of
it
us.
as well. And once I
Yeah.
start getting multiple, I'm like, all right, I'll do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I think because I know, I don't know as much about this as you do, but I know quite a bit about it as well. But I was watching it going, yeah, there's a lot of times I was like, I don't think so. But I think they made him look like the bastard he was very well, but they didn't with her.
Yes.
And I think that's where they
No.
went wrong.
No, constantly she was like cowering in the back, like, oh, I don't want to do this. And it's like, shut up. You were totally doing that. I think she was enjoying doing it. She liked doing it because he liked doing it. I think she liked to make him happy. Yeah. But no, you asked me if I thought she would have done this kind of thing without Paul. And I do remember doing some research as like her childhood. And I think she was a little shit, if I remember. So maybe she could have went down a different path and still had the same outcome.
Yeah.
I mean, who
I
knows?
guess that's something you never will know.
You know,
You will never
no.
know it. Like, you know, you hear those questions all the time. Oh, if they'd had a good upbringing, or if they had done this. At the end of the day,
Right.
does it matter?
Yeah.
Because they've done
Like
it.
my last week, Susan Smith, like if her dad didn't commit suicide and she wasn't molested, would she have been so depressed that she killed her children? I don't know if you listened.
I
Spoiler
was
alert.
listening to it, and I remember up until a certain point when you were saying how she was driving off and you told her backstory. And so it was a really good episode, by the way. And I was like, oh
Thank
God,
you.
I actually feel sorry for her. And then you went, and she got out and just let it go in. I was like, that bitch. And I just like that, I was just like turned. And I had zero sympathy for her. So if all those things are true, what, you know, and that's exactly what happened, I don't care.
She knew she was having some mental problems. And especially when you have children then involved in your situation, you need to step back and be true to yourself and get some help, because you can't. No.
Yeah.
I don't feel sad either.
No,
we're going off on a tangent here, but
I know.
It's like all the stories I covered are so messed up.
There's too many of them. Like there's so many
There's
true crime podcasts, but
I will
unfortunately they've all got
never
so
run
much
out of
material.
material.
Oh
No.
yeah. I don't know if I asked this, if I did, I cut it out, but did you ever feel any sympathy for her?
I mean, when you're seeing someone get their ass beat,
Yeah.
that's never easy to watch. But then like just getting up and crawling back up into bed and saying like, here, baby, come sit next to me, like all the sympathy's gone.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sorry, have some self-worth. Even if you think, oh, I'm going to go to prison forever because he's going to tell everyone I killed my sister, then own it. Like, don't do this to yourself. Why would you want to live your life like that? And I know you probably get some hate for that because lots of victims stay in relationships, abusive relationships, way longer than they should.
Yeah, but they're
and
not
it's
killing
hard.
people on the side.
I get it. Yes, I know.
That's the difference, isn't it?
Yeah, just her being abused kind of made me be like, oh, that sucks. That's about as much as I felt for her.
Yeah. Cool. So do you have
It's
anything
like
else?
once she did what she did to Tammy, like, no, I don't really.
Yeah, but the thing with Tammy, it made it look like she didn't want to do it and she was trying it, but in real life she was, very much a willing participant.
She called it a Christmas present to Paul, the virginity of her baby sister. So her.
But yeah, have you anything else to add?
No, I don't think so. Like I said,
Cool. So if people want to go and listen to your episode on these pieces of shit, where do they go?
well, you can listen to me. I'm on YouTube as well, which I think we're going to be sharing this on my channel. It's Killer Stories Podcast, and you can find my podcast on most podcast platforms. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, which I think I'm not banned anymore on Facebook. I got banned for a little bit, but Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok at Killer Stories Podcast. And then my Twitter account is at Killer Stories PC.
Brilliant. Definitely go and listen to those two and all the others and give her amazing reviews. But thank you for coming on again. And
awesome. Thank you for having me. Bye.
Bye.